Hello there, and a very warm welcome to another video from Change Tips and Tools. And this video is part 6 of the resource capacity planning series with me, Phil, the Brummie that hails from Birmingham, England. And again, remember, I will go through this training series as an end-to-end project. I am not skipping any detail, and I will talk you through step by step on how to build this template for yourself. However, if you can't wait until the end of this training series, you can get a copy of the completed template on the Change Tips and Tools Patreon, and the link can be found in the description along with the chapters for this video. Now, the purpose of today's video is to build the pivot tables for the detailed analysis and format and protect our sheets from user error within our resource capacity planning template. And by the end of this video, you will learn some tips and tricks on pivot tables, formatting shortcuts, and Excel's protection capabilities. So, we are going to focus on completing the summary sheet, so our resource summary. So we're going to complete all the formatting, and we're going to get this summary information on the top, on the header, and we're going to get these navigation buttons in place. We're also going to create our capacity tab, and this is where we can drill into the detail of our capacity information by skill set. And so we're going to do that sheet. We're also going to look at demand, so we're going to create our demand pivot table and tab. And again, we're going to create our slicers, and also we're going to look at creating that program, project and category slicers as well, along with all the formatting and navigation buttons. We're also going to look at creating the availability, so we can implement, again, create a pivot table so we can see the availability, and more importantly, where we've got over allocation problems. So again, we'll look at some conditional formatting within the pivot table as well, so it shows our over allocation in red, like so. And then finally, we will then create our utilization, so we can look at our utilization problems, again, with all the formatting done and in place. Once we've done that, we'll also create our formatting on our static data through to resource demand data as far as the header is concerned, and then we will focus on protection, making sure that users can't destroy all the hard work you've done in your templates. So we'll look at protection and how to set the properties of the objects within your sheet, and then how to set the protection through the review tab against your sheets individually, so your users can interact appropriately and safely without damaging all your hard work. So, with that said, let's do this. Now we want to put the summary information up here. So I think the first thing I'm going to do is here, I'm going to type resource summary. Let's make this a little bit bigger. So let's make it 48 and bold, and I'm going to align it to the top of the cell like so. I then want to get some facts in here, so I need to create some additional information for my count of programs and projects and resources, and the from and to information on here that I want to put on here as well. That should be dynamic based on the data we put in this resource capacity planning template. So I'm going to go back to my summary support, so I can see I've got a few things here. Now remember, because I'm going to use text boxes, and I'm going to use a formula within a text box to make that text box dynamic as a label, but I can't reference a pivot table directly, so I need to create some information based on my pivot tables. And also I want to do a little bit of formatting. So here I'm just going to put programs, projects, resources, and I want my date range as well in here. Just move this over to the right of it, like so. So this one's going to be easy. It's going to be equals my programs there. Just expand those so you can see them. This one will be project resources. So obviously as that changes, this will dynamically change based on that get pivot formula. Now the resources, I want to show in the label how many resources we've got based on how many named resources that we have available within our resource table. So first of all, I'm going to do a count if, because I want to get the total number of named resources in here. So I'm going to do equals count if. So the table is going to be my resources table. So select resources, open bracket. So I'm going to do the count if on the generic column in that table. And the criteria is going to be no, because obviously I don't want it to be generic. And if I just close that bracket, wonderful. So now I've got the total number of named resources. Then all I've got to do is to add something on the front here. So I now need to do the get pivot and join them together. So I can either make the adjustment here in the formula bar like I've been doing, or within the cell, with the cell selected, I can hit F2 and it puts the cell into edit mode. So I can then select the front of this and do equals resources like so. I'm then going to do the ampersand. I'm going to do an open quotation mark, space, / space, quotation mark, and another ampersand sign just to join it together. And if I hit return, I've now got that two resources with demand out of 7, like so. Now, as far as the date range is concerned, I need to take this from my table calendar table. And again, I'm going to use the concatenate function to join multiple strings together. So I'm going to do equals concatenate, like so. The first part is going to be start : space. Then I'm going to do a comma for my next argument. So the next argument is going to be from my calendars table. Now, watch what happens if I select a date from a. So if I go to static data and select start. Now remember last time when in the last video we saw this table 7, and we haven't fixed this. So again, I need to fix the name of this table because, as you know, I am OCD about naming my tables. Well, apparently not, because I seem to have missed quite a few in these videos. But anyway, moving on. So let me just close that bracket there on the concatenate, and you look at what that looks like if I do that. You'd expect a date, but no, what I'm getting is just the date serial number there. So I need to add something else to that. So that table there. So first of all, what I'm going to do, because I don't want to forget it, I'm going to go into static data. I'm going to select this table here, and I am going to table design, call this TBL calendar, and hit return. Now if I go back to my summary support, you'll see that that's picked that up automatically. Now, because I've changed that table name, I'm going to have to amend the source in Power Query, which I will show you how to do once I've finished these formulas here, and we will fix that table, because we'll need to do that before we jump into the next part post completing this summary page. So in here, I'm then going to go into the formula bar. So formula bar or F2 to edit the cell. I'm going to wrap this in a text function. So text open bracket. So let me just get rid of this bracket at the end here at the moment. So the first part of the argument is the value. I then need to tell it what format using this text function. So open quotation mark. So here in Blighty, in Britain, we do day, month and year. Again, you decide. This is your template. I'm going to do day. I'm going to do hyphen or a dash, for month, hyphen, and then 4 Ys for year. And then close that quotation mark and close that bracket, and then close that bracket on the concatenation function. And there you go. It's now showing the date in the right format. So now we need to do the same. So let's change that to, I'm going to do this as from, and then the next argument after this text function, I'm going to do comma. So you can see it's coming up with the next section. The next thing that I want to add, or string I want to add to this concatenate, is going to be, again, open quotation marks. I'm going to do a number of spaces, and I'm going to do 2 colon and a space and then a quotation mark. Then the same, I'm going to do the next string to be text open bracket. The value is going to be the finish date here. I'm going to do comma, and again open quotation mark, 2 Ds for day, hyphen, 2 Ms for month, and then I'm going to do 4 Ys for the year, and close the quotation marks and close that bracket, and that's the end of that argument. So that's what's going to be included in our text box. Now if I wanted to, I could make this a month, so I could go in here and go 3 Ms, and then you got 1st of Jan to 31st of December. So let's go with that. That probably looks better, doesn't it? And makes more sense. So I've now got these in place. So I then go to my summary sheet, and actually that summary sheet, I'm going to change that blue there. I'm going to change it on the tab. I'm going to right click tab color, and I'm going to select this one here, because I'm going to put some buttons here, and I want those buttons to match my tab colors. So let's just click off that. Yeah, that's better. And I'm going to move this to the end here. Right, so I'll move that to the end. So now I'm going to put some text box in here. So let's do this text box for the date range. So I'm going to go insert, text box, just draw it out like so. In the formula, I'm going to do equals, go to my summary support. I'm going to select that cell with the formula in and hit return. Wonderful. And then I'm going to make it middle, middle and middle. I'm going to make it 16, let's make it 18, let's make it bold. Yeah, that works. And then as far as the format of the text box, I'm going to go no fill and no outline. And then I'm just going to use my arrow keys just to move it on the screen like so. Wonderful. I think that works for me. Now, next I want to do my programs with demand, my projects demand, and the resources on here. So I am going to, again, insert, text box, let's draw this out. This is going to be programs with demand. I'm going to put a colon there. I think as far as the alignments, let's put it in the middle, and I want it to the right like so. I'm going to make it bold. Let's make it 14. Let's make it a little bit bigger so it all fits. And then I'm going to, on the shape format, I'm going to do no fill and no outline. And with that selected, I'm just going to do Control D, which will duplicate what I've got selected. So if it's an object, if I do Control D now, I'm going to duplicate it again. So I've done 2 copies of that in effect. So there you go, another shortcut for you. And then all I'm going to do is select the first one, hold down my Shift key, select the second one, and select the third one. And then on the format, I'm going to align these to the right, like so. Wonderful. And then I'm going to take this one here and I'm just going to do Control D, duplicate it. I'm going to move it over to here. Now this is where we want to put in our formula. So with this selected, I'm going to go into equals and let's make this our program. So if I go into support, select that count there and do return. And again, I'm just going to make it bold. Let's make it 14. Let's shove it in the middle like so. Wonderful. I'm going to take this here and I'm going to make it on the format shape. I'm just going to make the width. Let's make it 3. I might make that a little bit wider. Okay, that works. And then what I'm going to do here now is I'm going to put a border on this, so format shape. On the outline, I'm going to have a black outline, and again, as far as, again, do the drop down, the weight, let's make it 1.5, like so. Great. Okay. And I'm going to take that and do Control D twice to duplicate that. And let's move this down. Move that up there. That way I want that to be. That. Shift key to select them. I'm just going to do a line and tell it to distribute vertically, just so it's distributed evenly. I'm going to take that one there, and again on the formula bar, that's going to be, so we've got programs, that's going to be projects. That's going to be the next one down, so just do 8. Yeah, and again, format, I'm just going to go home. This one I am going to, so that was 8, so this one's going to be 9. The next one down. There you go. I'm just going to take that format. Boom. Right, and then just take these, select that one, and I'm just going to move him up. Center. Take that one. Using my arrow keys, just move it up so it's more center. Take that one. Move it up so it's more, or down should I say, so it's more center. And I'm just going to change the text on this to be project. And take this one, change this to be resources with demand. Okay, so you've now got our summary information on there. So I'm going to make a little tweak to this here. So I'm going to go to, I want to put the utilization label here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to my Speedo support, put my teeth in, Speedo support data. I'm going to take this to select that there. With that selected, use my up arrow key just to move that upwards. Yeah. And then go back to my summary sheet and I'm going to take this, let's just select it, hold down my control key, get the plus sign, and I'm just going to drag that to there, just drop it, let's change this to utilization, and then make it a little bit thinner. I'm going to use the arrow keys just to move it around, move that up slightly, And I'm going to make sure that the centre of this is aligned with that there. So looks about right. That label needs to go up a little bit higher. So let me go back to my Speedo support data again, select this, and then just using my arrow key, just move up a little bit more. Back to my summary sheet, just a little bit more. Perfect. Okay, that now works. So I think that's all the changes on all the updates. So this is now looking good. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to create my capacity, my availability, and my demand and my utilization sheets. And this is where, so we can drill into it. And then I'm going to add our navigation buttons, and that's what I'm going to do for the rest of this video. So let's, with the summary sheet selected, I'm going to do plus, and I'll add a sheet next to it, and I'm going to call the first one my capacity. So let's rename that, call it capacity. Oh, I've still got my caps lock on. Capacity, and hit return, and then tab, as far as the tab color, I'm going to make that again this one here, like so. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to make the row here same as the summary sheet, which we made the height 116. So I'm going to right click on it and do row height 116, like so. Hit return. As far as the column is concerned, we made that 28, so I'm going to column width, make that 28. And then the second row here, I'm going to make that the row height 107. And do 107, hit return. Okay, perfect. I'm then going to go to my summary sheet. I'm just going to take this row here and just do format painter, copy it, go back to my capacity sheet, and then just, so I've got exactly the same format there. Now that I've got this layout on here done, is what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy this sheet as my template. So we've got capacity, we also need demand, we need availability, and we need utilization. So if I right click on that tab, move or copy, I'm going to create a copy, and if I select static data, it should just put it before that static data tab, then click OK. So that's my first one. I'm then going to take that, do the same again, right click, move or copy. And again, I'm going to select the static data, say create a copy, and do OK. And then finally, so that's capacity. So let me just name these so I don't lose track of what I'm doing. That's going to be demand, hit return. This one, rename that one to be availability, hit return. So finally I need utilization, so I'm going to right click on that and move and copy, select static data, say create copy, and then let's just rename that to utilization. And hit return. So now I've got all my sheets that I want. So let's first of all, so just make sure that's unselected there. Let's do the first one, which is going to be capacity. So on this sheet, I want the user to have the ability to drill into the capacity by skill set and by date range. So I'm going to select this first cell here. I'm going to do insert pivot table from data model. Now, before I do that, if I do OK here, I think I'm going to get an error based on a change we made. So if I go into my calendar table here, Yeah, because I also want to go down to year, month and week. I want to be able to drill down into that week, and I haven't added the week number. And also I know that we changed the table name, so we are going to have an error against that calendar because it won't recognize the source anymore. So before I do that, I'm going to go to data ribbon, queries and connections, and I'm going to edit this, and I think I'm going to have an edit. I'm going to have an error. And there you go. So yes, we have got the error because it's looking for this table 7. So what I'm going to do here, I've got the source selected, and that's what it's doing. So I can either make a change there directly, or I can go into advanced editor. I do prefer to use the advanced editor because it shows me all these, based on these steps I've taken, all the things that I've done, and I want to make sure that table 7's not, I'm just scanning that quickly, it's not, it's just at the top. So I'm going to select table 7 in those quotation marks, and I'm going to refer it back to TBL because that's what we call the table. And then if I do done, it should fix it. There you go. So now that's fine. So it's always important to name your tables before you then move them into Power Query. Otherwise, you're going to have to be doing things like this. But that's one to note. I'm going to select the date column, and I'm going to do add column from date or time. I'm just going to add that week of year number, like so. Then go back to home and do close and load. It's refreshing. There you go. If I go back to my capacity and then go back to this pivot table here, so if I just get rid of that, on pivot table analysis, add my ribbon, pivot table analysis ribbon, add the field list. Right, and there you go. I've got the week of the year. So what I want in this is I want the year, I want the month as far as columns, and I want the week of year columns. As far as my rows are concerned, I'm going to go to my resource table, and I want skill set. So if I take this and put skill set, then as far as the value here is, I want from the calendar piece, I want, so this is capacity, so therefore I want the capacity total in here. And there you go. I'm then going to close this ribbon down, and first of all I'm going to change the design of this. So in the design ribbon, report layout, I'm going to change it to show in tabular form, like so. I'm then going to change the format here as well. So I'm going to scroll down, and that's the format that I want. I'm going to select this week, the first week piece here. I'm going to right click on it and say collapse entire field. So it then just closes all of them like so. So that I'm now happy with. So now with the pivot table selected, I'm going to give it a name. Yeah, so on pivot table analysis, I'm just going to call this PVT, and it's going to be called capacity. Yeah, so just giving that table a meaningful name so I know what it is. Again, with the pivot table still selected, on pivot table analysis, I'm going to insert 2 slices from the resource table. And you can see now, because the active tab, on the active tab, because I've got this table, it's showing what's active or what's been actively used in this table. So, and obviously what I want on this is I want the skill set and I want the resource as slicers, like so. So I'm then going to take the skill set. I'm going to hold down my Alt key so it just snaps to the top here. And then hold down the Alt key so it just snaps to the left. And I'm just going to bring this up to row 8. And again, on the format here, I'm going to do the drop down, go down one and select that format. Again, just from the visual piece. I'm then going to select that row, row 10 there, and I'm going to move this, hold down my my Alt key again, so it snaps and snaps to the grid. Again, format on the slicer, go one down, select that one, so it's consistent. And then I'm just going to drag this down as far as Alt. Let's drag it down to there. Let's drag it down a little bit lower. To 45, perfect. Want to be consistent. I'm then going to reselect the pivot table here, and I'm going to do pivot table analysis, and I'm going to insert a timeline. Now the timeline allows you to select date ranges, and that will then filter the information accordingly on that pivot table. So I'm going to insert timeline, and it should only be one, which is from our calendar, and I'm going to select date and click OK. And again, holding down the Alt key, I'm just going to snap it into position. Like so, and then just drag this to the right so it just expands it into totally. And then as far as the timeline is concerned, I'm going to go down one and just select that, and there you go. Now you'll notice we've not done report connections because I don't need to do that because I only want these to affect the pivot table that we're looking at. And based on the fact that I've done it with the pivot table selected from the pivot table analysis, they're automatically connected to this. So if I select May, or I select a range here, it all automatically adjusts. And if I click on filter, same here, it's all fine. So that's the capacity of in hours. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to insert an icon here. So I'm going to go insert icon, and I like this abacus here, so it's just the outline, so I'm going to select that one and hit insert and just make that a little bit bigger, like so. I'm going to select column B, and I'm just going to type resource capacity in hours, and then I'm going to make that bold, make it 48, same as the summary sheet, and then I'm going to put that in the middle like so. So that is our capacity done as far as that pivot table. Now let's look at our demand. So again, we're going to have a few more filter options on here, so we want to be able to filter it by, you know, which programs, etc., and so on. So again, I'm going to go into the demand tab, select the first, so cell B3 here, do insert from data model, click OK, and again I'm just going to open my cross-reference table here. I'm going to do program, I want project. I also then from the resources table I want skill set, and I want the resource here also. And then as far as my columns are concerned, go to the calendar. I want year, month, and week, so people can drill down, the user can drill down to the week level. And then finally, as far as the total, I'm going to take demand from the calendar and drop it into the values like so. So now I've got all my information in there. Again, I'm going to close that down, and with the pivot table selected, do design. I'm going to go report layout, tabular. I'm also, as far as blank rows, I'm going to say insert below each item. And let me just expand these out a little bit, like so. Wonderful. Again, as far as the format on the design ribbon, just go down again to be consistent. I'm also going to put subtotals at the bottom of the group. Wonderful. Again, just expand that out so it looks okay. Great. So that's fine. And again, on that week there, the first one, I'm going to right click on it. So collapse entire field, like so. Wonderful. So now I need my slicers and the ability to filter this information and drill into it. So what I'm going to do with the pivot table selected is I'm first of all going to give it a name. So PVT, this is demand, and hit return. And then on that pivot table analysis, I'm going to do slicers. So again, you can see it's got all the active ones. So this makes it really easy for us. So we want to know generic as well. We're going to know, we want the skill set, we want the resource, but we're also going to want these three here. So we can then, so for example, we want the category, so we can then filter on where's, if the demand is coming, focus on the priority categories, for example, of our portfolio, if we've got problems. And then I'm going to click OK. And there they are. So I'm going to take the generic one. Let's put that. Okay, snap it to top there. There you go. Format again. Let's take that one. I then want skill set. So let's put this. And like that. Again, format. Let's take that one again. I then want resources. So let's move that here. Okay, let me just position these here. And also add the time slicer as well for this. Let me just do that. Okay, those slicers are done. Just want to show you these because I'm going to just change the column. So the first one, the program, I'm just going to drag this up here. Yeah. Now on the slicer, I'm just going to give it 2 columns. So increase the columns, just like so. Just wanted you to see that as I'm doing this. Okay, let me do the rest. And there you go. So those are now added. So if I just look at those, you can see it. Wonderful. Again, let's put our heading here. So I am going to insert an icon. And this time, because this is demand, I'm going to take the one, instead of the outline, I'm going to do the filled one. Again, make that a little bit bigger. And column B, just do resource demand in hours. Let's make that bold. 48, and let's put it in the middle. There you go. There's that one done. And let's do availability. So let's take B3 again, do insert pivot table from data model. And what we want in here is we want to understand people's availability. So are they over allocated or are they under allocated? So what we are going to do here is, again, from the calendar, I want the year, month, and I want the week of the year. As far as the value is concerned, I want their availability in here. So take the availability and I'm going to drop that into the values like so. And then from the resource table, let's drop skill set into the row, and let's drop resource into the row like so. Wonderful. I'm then going to close that down, and again I'm going to make this as far as design, I am going to put it into tabular form. I'm going to add subtotals at the bottom of the group, and I'm going to add a space as well, a blank row below each group. Again, on the design here, let's select that one. Perfect. So now I've got that there. I want to do something about this formatting, because I want it, if it's a positive number, I want it to be green. If it's a negative, i.e. below 0, I then want it to be red on here. So what I'm going to do here is, with any cell selected in here, is on the home ribbon, I'm going to do conditional formatting, and I'm going to do new rule. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to use a formula, and that formula is going to be, so the cell that I've got selected at the moment is D7. I want this to be relative, so it's going to be equals if D7, so I'm not putting any dollar signs to lock it. So if D7 is greater than or equal to 0, I'm going to do true, false. So obviously if it's true, I want it to do something to the formatting. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do the formatting. So at the moment this is positive, so I'm going to make the font green, like so, and click OK. Now here's an important thing here. I want it to show the values, so all cells with total availability of cells. So I'm going to select that. So it applies it to the whole of the pivot table, yeah, on that particular cell, total availability, and I'm going to click OK. So now you can see it's now set everything to green. With the same cell selected, I'm going to then do another on the home ribbon, conditional formatting, new rule. Again, use a formula, and it's going to be equals if D7, which is this cell here, is less than 0, then true or false. So if it's true, I want it to apply this formatting. So I'm going to go to formatting. I'm going to make the font bold, and I'm going to make it red like so, and click OK. And again, I'm going to say all cells showing total availability values. Select that and click OK. Boom. So now on this table, I can see what's going on with as far as availability is concerned. And where it's red, obviously that's where I want to focus. So again, on the week of the year, I'm going to right click on that field there, that first one, and say collapse entire field. So just collapse it down. And this time I'm going to add my slicers, and I'm going to do it from the resource table. I'm going to do it for the generic resources, skill set, and resource on here. And of course, I'm going to add the date range as well. So let me just add those slicers. Boom, there you go, done. And again, I'm just going to add an icon here. So let's look at my icon. So insert icon. Let's type people, just to filter this down a little bit. There you go, let's take that. Let's put a header in here. Resource capacity in hours. Let's make that bigger. 48. Bold. And let's put it in the middle, like so. Wonderful. Last but not least, let's do the utilization ribbon. So here I want to show again the status. So in the same way on the summary sheet where we've got these icons, we're now going to show this in a little bit more detail. So on utilization with B3 selected, I'm going to do insert pivot table from data model, click OK, and again calendar, I want year, month and week of year in the columns. As far as the utilization is concerned, I want the utilization value and I want the status, like so. And then down to my resource table, expand that, and I'm going to put skill set in the row. I'm going to put the resource in the row, like so, and then I'm going to close that down. Again, I am going to, in the design, so with the pivot table selected on design, I'm going to make the report layout a tabular report layout. I'm going to put a blank row below each group, and I'm going to want to grant a subtotal at the bottom of the group. Okay, now let's then change the format to be that format. Wonderful. And you see where we've got these errors where it doesn't quite work, is I'm going to right click on the pivot table, do pivot table options, and for error values I'm just going to say leave it blank, like so, and do OK. And those error values are now gone. I'm then going to, again on the week of the year, just right click on that, and I'm going to collapse entire field. And again, I'm going to add the slicers for the generic slicer, the skill set, and the resource sliders slicer. So let me just do that with the pivot table selected on pivot table analysis. Wonderful. So I've now got those. Let's add my icon. Insert ribbon, icons. I'm going to filter on graph. And yes, let's select that one. Insert. Let's give it a name. Okay, so there's all the slicers. There's the title done. We have now done the formatting. The thing I'm going to do on these views here as well, it's going to go view, get rid of the grid line. It's gone. Availability, get rid of the grid lines. Demand, get rid of the grid lines. And capacity, get rid of the grid lines. I'm then going to go to my summary sheet. And now what we need to just put in, the last thing in this video, is we're going to put the navigation and just make sure that all these things are protected appropriately and don't move around, etc. Because after all your hard work, you don't want somebody ruining it, do you? So let's put some buttons in here so we can then navigate between all these sheets. And I don't need Speedo support data anymore, so I'm going to hide that. I don't need the summary support, so I'm going to right click on that tab and hide it. So I've now got all my sheets here. So we're going to do some formatting on these in the next video, but let's just focus on these pivot tables. So summary sheet, navigation. I am going to do some buttons in here. So if I go into insert, and I'm going to do shapes, and I want this one with the rounded edges, so I'm going to select that, and let's just make that like so. And I want, so my first one is going to be capacity. Right, let's make that a little bit bigger. Home, let's keep it 14. Let's alignment in the middle, and let's just make the width on this format wide, so let's make that 3, like so. Okay, that works. Right, as far as the type, I'm going to select this one so it matches the color of our tabs. I think as far as the height is concerned, I'm going to make that, let's go 1.5 maybe. Okay, that works. So now I've got the basic shape that I want. I don't want to have to do the resizing again, etc. So I need one for demand. So I'm going to do Control D to duplicate that shape I've got selected. And I'm just going to move that down to here. And let's put demand. Wonderful. I'm going to duplicate that one. And let's move it up to here. And let's call this one availability. Wonderful. Just duplicate that one, Control D. It's going to be utilization. Right, wonderful. And then just Control D that one. And let's put this one over here. It's called static data. So these are going to be our navigation keys. Let's make Control D. And let's make this going to be resources. Wonderful. Now these two, I'm just going to select both to shift, select that one. Format, I'm going to make the fill red to be in line with our tabs. I'm going to take that, do Control D to duplicate, and let's do one for resource capacity. I need 2 lines. Right, that's a little bit, let's make that. No. Okay, that's fine. Let's duplicate that, Control D for our resource demand. Wonderful. Now that I've got them all, let me just line all these up with each other. And again, what I'm going to do is hold down my shift key just to select these here. I'm going to do align top, and then I'm going to do distribute horizontally, just so they're evenly distributed. And then I'm going to take these here, shift key again, align top, okay, and then I'm going to take that one, shift that one, align center, shift that one, align center, hold down the shift key and align center. Okay, then these two, I'm just going to select them both, align top. Okay, that looks fine. And again, I'm just going to change the color of those to be that color. But no, let's do fill. I think that's more in line with that tab. Yeah, wonderful. So now I've got my buttons created. I need to now make them have links, and so you can navigate to these tabs. So I'm going to right click on the capacity shape, and then from the drop down select link. it's going to be place in this document. So the first one is going to be capacity. So I'm going to select capacity in cell A1. That's where it's going to go. I'm going to add a screen tip. So I'm going to go select for capacity sheet. And that'll be just a, when you hover over it, it'll be a prompt. And if I do OK, and I do OK there, now when I put my, you've got select, if I just click off it, you've now got this icon and it will literally jump straight to the capacity. Wonderful. So I'm now going to do the same thing here. And I'm going to, so let me just do the links like I've done for capacity for all these to point them to all these appropriately. So I'm going to right click on demand, do link, let's do the screen tip again. So select for demand sheet and do OK. I'm going to point that to demand and click OK. So let me now do that for the rest of the buttons. And there you go. So I've now done all the links here. So all done. Wonderful. So what I'm going to do next is I'm now going to just, in the same way that we've done these headings here, is I'm now just going to do that formatting on the top row here for my static data, resources, resource capacity and resource demand, and just do that formatting on that top row. So again, like the static data, just make this here, right click on it, row height, make it 116. I'm going to take any one of these, just take that, format painter, go back to my static data and just paste it, and then I'm just going to put some icons in and so on. So let me just do that for static data through to resource demand in the same way. Okay, so I've now gone through all my sheets and done the formatting at the top here and taken the grid lines off like so. And again on this one I'm just going to take the grid lines off, so view, take those grid lines off. So the last thing I want to do here before I sort out the protection to stop things moving around, I'm now going to select these. I'm going to create a copy of them. So I'm going to go on the home ribbon. I'm going to do find and select objects. Just going to highlight this area here and do control copy. And then take off the find and select objects. Go to capacity tab. Select this cell here and do control V. And I'm going to align them up. And let's just move them over slightly. And I'm going to take this one here. So I'm going to right click on it, not left click, right click on it. And I'm going to do control D. And I'm just going to move this over to the left. And I'm going to change the format to be this format here. And then going to right click in here and I'm going to edit the link and I'm going to put it to summary, screen tip, summary sheet, and click OK and click OK. And then I just want to change the text in there, so let's just get rid of that and make that summary. So now I've got all the buttons. Again, I'm going to get on the home ribbon. I'm going to do find and select objects. And I'm going to select that range there and do control copy and then do find and select, unselect that again. And I'm going to go to demand. In this cell, I'm going to do control V and then just line it up. So let me do that for all the sheets. And there you go. I've now done it for all the sheets here. So for resource, capacity, resources, I've done it. For utilization, availability, demand, and so on. So they've all been copied and pasted. So now that I've done that, as far as these are concerned, is I need to go onto capacity. Because capacity is selected, I'm going to right click on that, edit link, and I mean basically I'm going to edit the link and I'm going to remove the link on the capacity one. And then as far as the shape is concerned, I'm going to make the fill this grey here. And the same on demand. On the demand sheet, I'm going to select the demand, right click on it, edit the link. I'm going to remove the link. And then as far as the shape format, I'm going to fill it with the same fill. So what I'm doing is that basically the active sheet, I'm disabling that button and showing that that's what you've got selected. So let me do that for the rest of the sheets. And there you go. So I've now done it for all of the sheets accordingly. Just grayed out and remove the link for the appropriate one to that sheet. Click on summary. So now that I've done that, the final thing I just want to work on now is just set the protection properties to make sure these things don't move around. Okay, so on this sheet, I'm going to do Control, on the summary sheet, do Control A, and then I'm going to do Control G, do Special, and then Objects. So I've now got all the objects selected, and I'm going to do Control 1. And on this particular, on the size and properties, on the properties, I'm going to say do not move or resize with cells. Now that we've done all our alignments, etc., we don't want any of this moving. Now, for all these, they are going to be locked. The only thing that someone needs to interact with, the only thing they need to interact with is the slicers. So now that I've set those settings there, let me just move over there and dock it. Like so. Now I've done that for everything on there. I'm just going to close that down and just select away from them, and then on the slicers I'm going to select the first slicer, the two slicers, and then I'm going to do Control 1 again. But on this I don't want them to be locked because they've got to be able to interact with those. And I'm going to go onto the position and layout. So for slicers, you have the ability to stop people moving those as well. So I can disable the resizing and moving because I want people to interact with them. And that's then done. And then as far as the properties, the protection properties, I'm going to go to, as in the protection of this sheet, I'm going to do Review. And I'm going to protect the sheet. And I'm going to unselect, so I can't select locked cells. I want them to interact with pivot tables. So we've got the pivot table over here, but that's it. That's all we need them to be able to do. Having that selected means they can work with the slicers and it will impact everything. I'm going to click OK. So this is now protected. I can't do anything in it, but I can still interact with the slicers and the views, and everything works fine. And I can also interact with the use my words here. I can interact with the link buttons, the navigation buttons. So I'm going to select capacity, and again on this same thing here, I'm going to do Control A, Control G. I'm just going to do Special, Objects here, do Control 1, and again, as far as the properties are concerned, do not move or resize, and they are all locked like so. Okay, then again I'm going to just click off those, select the slicers, not the date slicer, but the slicers, and again they are not locked. As far as the position and layout, they can't move them. I'm then going to select the time slicer. Again, this is not locked. But you'll notice we have no way of disabling the movement here. I don't know why, but you can't do that on date slicers. So That's the only thing that somebody can remove or move, etc. Yeah. So now that one's done. And then on the protection, I'm going to do protect. Now I'm going to have select lock cells ticked this time because I want them to be able to interact with the pivot table. And I'm going to say pivot table, pivot chart. Yeah, that will work. And if the sort is available, I'm going to say, yeah, you can use that, and you can also use the auto filter, i.e. these options here, and I'm going to click OK if they're available. So that's now protected. So again, I can select, but I can't delete stuff in there. But what I can do, hopefully, is if I select this cell here and do right click, I can then expand it, and I can drill, and I can filter stuff and so on. So I can interact with that pivot table fine. So let me now do the same for, so remember the protection, if I do protect, there's no password on it. These are the options that I've got selected here. Okay, so let me do that for the rest of the other spreadsheets here, especially in demand, availability and utilization. Let me set those settings for those. And there you go. So I've now applied the settings for these tabs as far as the protection is concerned. In the next video, we will look at the protection here as well, and we need to add a few more buttons. But in that video, we're also going to look at adding some Visual Basic for our data refresh, etc. And that will be what we cover in the next video. So we're going to look at finishing off our protection and formatting on our static data, so through 1 to 4. We're also going to look at Visual Basic for our data refresh and how to utilize Visual Basic with a protected worksheet as well. And we'll do some final tweaks to the formatting, and that will then bring us to the end in the next video. So hopefully you found this video informative. If so, please remember to click that like, subscribe, and smash that notifications button, as it really helps the channel. And I wish you a wonderful day wherever you are in the world. Please take care, and I look forward to seeing you in the next and final video of this resource capacity planning training series. Bye bye now.